But look at it like this. I call ego everyone's greatest obstacle. It's the thing that when you need to work on something, the ego rears up and goes, "No, I don't got to do that." Because what happens is if you do admit you have to admit that you might have been wrong. Your ego doesn't like that.
Welcome to the Measure Success podcast, where we feature top leaders on how they measure success in their business and life. Now, let's learn from their experiences.
Welcome to the Measure Success podcast, where I talk with top leaders about effective strategies that inspire success. Today, I'm very excited to have our guest, Anthony Trucks. He is a former NFL player, turned entrepreneur, author, and motivational speaker. He is the CEO of Identity Shift, a company that focuses on helping individuals and organizations make successful transformations in their lives and businesses. He also happens to be an alumni of my nemesis, the University of Oregon. And so that's, I went to the University of Washington. He's a Duck. You had a great collegiate career and, of course, NFL career. And so, of course, I'm sure a lot of people ask you about that question, but let's skip past becoming an NFL career. Talk about that transformation of becoming going from being the NFL to now transitioning to becoming a businessman.
Oh yeah, it sucks, bro. It's not easy. I'll give you this first piece of it though. There are a lot of intangibles athletes have. That's why people hire athletes. It's phenomenal, right? Because they have these abilities to push past things. Interpersonal skills are usually pretty good. Their stick-to-itiveness, there's some dynamics to them as people that do well. The problem is when you get out of the NFL and you go to a regular job, I just say like a job, a career that somebody else is your boss, leads the show. We actually transition well because we're taking these intangible skills and getting put back into a system or a process, or a structure that tells us, hey, be here at this time, do this thing. Here's what it looks like to win. When you get into business, you've got, out of the NFL or out of professional sports, and you go to you are the one that's supposed to create that container. But I don't know how. like someone used to tell me when I had to be at the facility, when practice was, when meals were, when lifting was, when recovery was, when school was, when study hall, So I just got to show up and do it, be on time, right? When you get out of that, you can work, but then the problem is if you don't have someone designing that container of structure, you don't know what to do with yourself. So going into business actually was very difficult because I didn't have that same sense of pace and power, and I didn't have the same results. I didn't know what it meant to win. Like, I didn't know what it meant like to win a day. Whereas in business, win the day means that I get the task that the business needed done today done. And, in our world, it's very hard to take that over. So when I first got out, very, very hard, not fun at all. Learned the hard way. I think it's a great microcosm of the world, having to start your own business and learn what it means to be at the top, at the bottom, in between, and everywhere. Make SOPs and structure and process. Understand what it means to be in business versus a business. Those little kind of things I learned the hard way. But now, pairing an understanding of business with the intangibles, I do phenomenally. Like, it's a blast. It's a ton of fun because I can outdo most people in business because I now have the structure understanding that they have.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing about that. I was kind of, curious the other side behind it, right? When you're, in both your respective, from being all the way up, right? From collegiate athlete to being an NFL athlete, it's all about you, right? It's you and the team, if that makes sense. Meaning that there's so much about you're literally a star by definition, right? When you are in the NFL, and then all of a sudden once again, you go into this business realm. And does anybody? I mean, some people care, but how much does that translate over or not? Or like you gotta still show up and you gotta still perform, or does that legacy, some of that stuff, does that help? I'm kind of curious.
What do you mean by legacy stuff? Like the teamwork stuff,
or just from your own personal thing, right? Hey, I played. You have a background of being in the NFL, and so you get an immediate status, so to speak. But how much does that really carry over after a period of time?
Yeah, it's funny. I work with individuals that aspire to do what I do, speak and coach for a living, and there is an inset, I guess, perspective or assumption that because I play the NFL and everybody knows who I am, that's why I get booked. And I go, nobody knows who I am. You have no idea. Like the fact that I played professional football, I'm going to get an extra 5 minutes, or not 5 minutes, maybe 5 seconds of their attention. And those 5 seconds are going to determine really quickly, am I worth listening to or not? Because nobody cares that I played football. I'm not playing now, And so there's this thought that people go, oh, you played, so it must be the reason you get. No, it's not. When my business does well. Honestly, here's the other side of it. There are people I've come across in life who, at some point in time in their life, they were burned by a football player. They took their girlfriend. They weren't nice when they were in school. They bullied. And so the interesting thing is, I get the reverse of love. I get this. I got to battle through this inset perspective and assumption they have of football players just to be able to have the conversation. So I promise you, it is not what everybody thinks it's all, built up to be in their head.
That is really good insight. And I do appreciate that. There is so much of what we think from the outside, those who have not been in the league versus those who've been in. And it's, first of all, it's crazy competitive,
Oh,
right?
really?
I
Yeah.
mean, you're always fighting to get your roster spot, to play, get opportunity. And then I think that's the benefits, right? Is you get this fighting thing, but it's not, once again, the same, right? When you go into the world of business, except the fact that you still get a fight. How many times do you think people, once again, when you're coaching other people who are they're coaching them and they think just because they've been in the NFL, stuff's going to happen for them? Does that happen a bit where they don't realize that you still have to work hard, perhaps even harder sometimes to get that next opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, there's an assumption that because of who you mean guys that leave the league and then go into the world, you think it's going to be easy for them?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's not. Here's the hard part too. You go out into a world where you are 8, 10 years behind individuals who've been in the workplace. They've been in the market. They've been in so they've got these years ahead of you, and you got to catch up. And if you don't, you falter. Because the thing is, you may have some intangible that doesn't replace a knowledge base you had to have, a skill set base. When someone spent 8 years in construction or 8 years in real estate or 8 years in accounting, there's so many things that they can't teach you that they learned over the years of doing this stuff. So just because you know how to show up and work hard and communicate and take feet doesn't mean you know how to be successful in that. And sometimes the ego can follow the football player guys or athletes into the world, and it becomes even doubly difficult because people look at you and go, "You don't know this," but you go, "But I'm great." And I go, "All right, here we go." And then they don't talk to you, or they don't want to give you feedback, because when they do, you don't listen to it. And it's like, all right. And little by little, these guys wander into these downward spirals because the ego follows with them, and it doesn't need to be there.
That's well said. Well, let's get into some of what you're doing today. I think it's pretty darn cool. You got a great book here, Identity Shift.
Thank you.
And so once again, for those who haven't had the opportunity to read your book yet, and of course encourage those who haven't to go out and read it, why is this crucial, this concept of having identity shift for your both personal and professional growth?
Yeah, well, the thing is we'll just keep it this way. First off, you have an identity. Your identity is an instinctual piece of you. It's who you are when you're not thinking about who you are. That is a set of actions, habits, and patterns. And that's what builds your life. Everything we have right now is because of the actions, habits, patterns we have that go on in our days. And they're usually unconscious things we do. We just kind of just start doing stuff and it turns into a life, right? So if you want to have more, you have to become more. You have to increase the level, or, I guess the effectiveness of your habits, patterns, and actions. So you have to elevate your identity, which I call a shift. It's not changing who you are. But if you're not used to getting up early, like I don't get up early, you become the person that gets up early, right? I don't like to have, these hard conversations. You become the person that can have hard conversations. Small shifts, but they exponentially increase your life. So what I look at is if you want to attain or sustain something, anything in life, it's going to be at the level of your current identity. Now, when you look at a shift, the problem is a lot of people want something more than what they have, but they're met with things that are uncomfortable. They don't do them, and then they don't have the thing they want and wonder why. Or they do whatever feels really okay and comfortable. And I go, look, to be honest, you got to do out of character stuff. They go, well, I don't want to be out of character. Yeah, you do. See, out of character is not bad. Out of character is up. It's good as well. And so the work that I do, and why I think it's so incredibly important, is individuals go, well, I got to work on my mindset. Well, that's great. You can work on your mindset. What if your belief system sucks? What if your habits, patterns, and actions suck? What if you maybe your thoughts, they're not in line? Like you may think like your mind is like, I can do it, but then you're questioning your head going, oh boy, can I? You have a cognitive dissonance. What I look at is identity encompasses your mindset. Your identity encompasses your belief system, your thoughts, your habits, your actions, your ego. Like it all is together. And that, in fact, is part of it. So for a lot of folks anybody that's sitting here going, like, I want to make more money. I want to be a better leader. I want to have a better marriage. I want to be in better shape. All these things they're just parts of your life, but they're all run off, again, your habits, patterns, and actions. The idea is to make small shifts to who you are at your core, toward the things that you do that create that for your life. happen almost instinctually. As easy as your life feels now, it should happen in the same manner. But I know it happens one of two ways. And these are going to be two that are incredibly distinct for each person's world. But what it is, it happens either on demand or when crap hits the fan. I choose it. I'm in control. I want more. I go after it. Or holy crap, all of a sudden a fire gets up. I got to put it out. Bob's having an issue in accounting. Susan's, bothered. Nick took, Karen's burrito. I don't know. All of a sudden I got to figure these things out, right? And we got to go crazy. And I go, that was in me the whole time. I solve it and I do it well. And I go, what? It's always been there. Well, what were you doing the last 2 years? Why didn't you muster that up 2 years ago and figure it out? And then what happens is we live this life of wishing we had stuff, not realizing that everything's at our fingertips if we choose to do it on demand, which means I go after it instead of waiting for stuff to go sideways.
What is the, if you may, most common habit that you run into in your practice that where people are trying to break? They're trying to break, a habit that because they haven't overcome it, they can't get to the next level.
Oh yeah, it's I'll explain it. The simplest way to state it is people are married to their current ego. Their ego, here's an interesting thing. Ego, well, there's a lot of ways to look at it. You can look at the concepts of, id, ego, super ego, which obviously that exists. We're not going to go to that level with this right now. But look at it like this. I call ego everyone's greatest obstacle. It's the thing that when you need to work on something, the ego rears up and goes, no, I don't got to do that. Because what happens is if you do admit you have to admit that you might have been wrong. Your ego doesn't like that. Our egos are in place to protect the current identity. And so what I mean by that is when my identity was, I'm a great football player, my ego protected it with actions. I would get up early, I'd lift weights, treatment, film room, eat the right stuff because I go, I'm a football player. I wasn't going to let my actions fall in opposite of that because I was going to be good at that. If you go, I'm a great dad, right? Okay, my ego believes that, so it will follow up with actions. I'll be compassionate. I'll be patient. I'll get up in the middle of the night and clean up puke off the floor because my kid is sick. It's what you do because I'm a dad, right? And what happens, we don't realize also the ego is protecting the identity parts that aren't that great. And the habits we have, they just run and we don't question them. We don't stop. And so, for example, one of your habits or your patterns might be that when something goes wrong, you fly off the handle. You go, I got an anger problem. Well, no, you just have a problem and you're identifying that and your ego won't let you admit you need to work on it. So you keep doing that same stupid thing. And then what happens is people look at you and they go, I don't want to deal with that person. I don't want to do business with them because I believe your business and your life, it lives and dies in the dark. Conversations had about you when you're not present. And so when you have these things going on and your ego won't let you accept the honest thing of, I got to work on this, you'll never give yourself permission to improve. So when I work with individuals, they go, look, I want to make more. I want to do more. I want to be more. Okay, great. Let's dig into this stuff. We start going. We will inevitably find something that they will try and protect. They'll be like, no, I just do that. No, you don't just do that. You've chosen to do that. You're saying it out loud so you can live in a way to make that right for your life. But the truth is, it has to stop. You need to, from now on, for example, it's an anger thing. When something happens, don't fly off the handle. Don't accept that as what you have to do. Like, let's sit here and think about what could be a better solution. Then we can think of one together. Okay, next time it happens, do that. But what if they think I'm different? Good. Good. They think you're different in a positive way. Be out of character, man. The next time it happens, everyone would freak out. Do something in the opposite that's positive. They're going to be like, oh, crap. Look at Bob. All of a sudden, Bob. Okay, Bob, right? Things can improve. And so the biggest issue I run into with people is they want to protect the ego where it's at. And keep it where it's at when in reality it's protecting negative parts of your identity that are actually keeping you from what you want most.
No, that's powerful. And it's so fascinating once again of how our selves, not others, right? Well, here we'll go somewhere. The glass ceiling, right? There's this proverbial glass ceiling that's mentioned often for individuals that, oh, I can't get to somewhere because there's this glass ceiling, but by definition, there is no glass ceiling.
There's nothing, man. None of these things exist. These limitations are stupid to me. Yeah, this is where I'll get pissed off a little bit. No, I'm a former black, NFL linebacker. I'm the dumb jock. I'm the former foster kid that grew up with nothing, grew up really poor. And this isn't like a I'm great thing. This is not what this is. This is I understand the rules of the game. And the rules of the game say, play the game. The game is always got people playing it. Someone's going to play it better. And if I give myself a reason why I can't do well, I have diverted my attention from getting better at the game. Like I hate when I watch these kids nowadays go, well, the reason that I'm not successful is because these boomers messed the economy up. Damn it, work harder. What do you want me to tell you? There's a path laid out for someone to make money. The game is getting played by billions of humans. You think it's going to be the same 30, 40 years later? No, it just gets harder. But if you build these muscles and get creative, there's things that boomers don't know. Learn those things, become unique and viable in a different way. You'll make the money. Don't sit back and go, well, the reason I'm stuck at Walmart, the reason you're stuck at Walmart is because you don't want to go home and learn a trade in your off time. You want to spend time with your friends. You want to drink a bunch, party a bunch, and hang out and have to go back to a job that you don't like and complain about the job. In your off time, if you don't do anything different, you don't go past that job. I'm sorry, but that's the way the world works. You can complain about the rules of the game or play the game better. And so for me, when I look at these things, and I have no idea if I'm on track what you're talking about, but I look at this thing and I go, it's a simple puzzle. Solve it, folks. Don't complain it's hard. Solve the puzzle.
No, you actually were heading exactly. I mean, I loved the direction you head towards, and I loved how it got you. It hit a where you probably could have jumped to the screen here saying, "Hey, look, you're just talking about your own self, the issues that you've had to overcome, which are significant." But we all, regardless of who we are, what background, we had no, how do I say this, no control of our birth, right? But it's interesting right now, we're both Generation X people, okay? Which it's what a terrible name for a generation, right? Generation X, just first of all, let's put that aside. But secondly, regardless of names, just factually, I think we have the greatest opportunity over the next 10 years, 10, 15 years to do extraordinary work because there's a vacuum of leadership right now that's happening. And so if we come in and do the right things and stop complaining about what perhaps boomers did in the past, or complain about the younger generation of, oh, they're better than us in technology or whatever. It's like, get up to speed.
Learn. Put time.
Learn. Exactly. There's so much opportunity. And when we stick, I grew up, Anthony, I don't know if you ever accidentally, fell into Lynn, Massachusetts, but that's where I was from. Lynn, and you never come out with the same way you came in. And it was a town north of Boston. And it was really rough when I was growing up. And so for the first 20 years of my life, being on free and reduced lunch, I was like, I was not worthy because I had these free and reduced lunch stamps, if that makes sense, going into school. Too. And so, you see, and so you have this like limitation, right? That I'm only worth something. And then when it made a little bit, right, it was like, then I got stuck in this middle tier of, oh, I'm only okay with so much. And then to get to the next level, I had to think differently again, because there's these mindsets within each group you hang out with, right? Of like, this is what good is, this is what success is, or this is maybe not success, but this is what we like, our comfort level.
Yeah, they set their own ceiling too.
Yes. It doesn't have to be that way. I mean, literally last time, Anthony, I was in Boston talking with somebody from Boston. I said from Lynn, they're like, how are you effing alive? It's just like, they just, because their expectation was if you're from Lynn, you're going into jail or you're in a, something like that.
Well, foster kids, if you go to any prison in America, 75% of the inmates are former foster kids like me. And the thing, in like half the homeless population, less than 1% of us graduate from college. That means that of 400 and something thousand, actual foster kids, 4,000 might make it. I mean, if that's the 1%, it's tough. And I go, well, how is this? And here's what I've noticed. And I study a lot more than just like conceptual stuff. I try to look at like the brain and neuroscience. And I think there's an interesting like connection. So first off, I don't think we're the average of the people we surround ourselves with. I think we're the average of the expectations of the people we surround ourselves with. I want to be around people that expect more of themselves, more of the group, more, because if we're good where we're at, we can be happy together as bank robbers. Doesn't mean we're good, like, what's my expectation? I need someone that makes me feel uncomfortable and pokes a little bit. That's why I got a wife that always makes fun of me for being chubby, so I don't eat trash, right? It's weird, but I'm just giving that as an example. But here's the thing too, is I think we live in this world where there's this immediate gratification and we don't understand what it's doing to us. When I say you have to work harder, I do not mean physically harder. I don't always mean you have to go out and slave away and work more hours. In fact, what I'm saying is you have to learn how to sit down and read a book, or how to take some information and apply that tediously, right? To, I don't know, code something, create something, research something, make something, do the endless hours. I have now, as of today, recorded 935 straight 7-minute podcasts every weekday 3.5 years. Prior to that, I had a stint where I did 1,333 straight days of a 90-second video and posted it, 3.65 years. I say it because the only thing that's really separated me as a speaker and as a coach is I have tediously done work that most people won't. And here's why. With the brain and wanting to scroll all day and do this stuff, we've trained ourselves to get almost anguish and angry and discomfort at having to focus our minds for extended periods of time. So school gets harder, trying to get a degree gets harder, trying to learn something gets harder, doing things. And so it's just, and I'm always battling my mind as well. Like I have the same phone, right? But then I look at people and I go, in the time that's the last year, right? If a year went by and you did nothing, well, what I'm doing is I'm out here I'm getting in focused hours. Even if it's 1 hour a day, I'm getting focused hours on stuff. At the end of a year, if maybe you only got, maybe 20 minutes a day or no minutes a day, let's say you got in a good, 30 minutes a day. Well, at the end of a year, if I've done an hour on average, you've done 30 minutes, I have 2 years to year one of information, education, application. So the working harder, it's not about physically going and slaving away. It's about, can you sit yourself down, lock your brain in, and do the stuff? Because think about it, the only difference between older generation and younger generation is that the younger generation has more time spent in curiosity about technology. And older people go like, I don't want to worry about that stuff. I don't feel like looking on the tickety talkie. No, go focus on that, dude. What do you mean you don't have the time for that? That's the only difference. I don't care how old you are. They have the ability to sit there and go look at it. And the younger people going, but I don't understand how the things economically, and I don't understand it. Go learn. Go read a book like the books that we read. Everything we have access to, you do, but you won't do it. Because what you prefer to do is go to work and go, oh, I'm so brain dead from listening to my boss. And I got to go home and I got to veg out and binge a TV show or I got to scroll on Instagram. You don't. And the thing is, while you do that, you're just condemning yourself to the same coffin of a life that you don't want to be in the first place.
Wow. That I love what you're talking about there. And just in terms of, so you talk about that concept of dark work.
Well, there's a couple. So just to give some perspectives, because there are similar things. You have shadow work, which people go, is it shadow work? I go, no, shadow work is you peering into the background to see the things in your shadows that are affecting you. Dark work is what you do once you know what you found. I got to work on something. Then you have Cal Newport has deep work, which is beautiful work. It's about the ability to lock it and focus. And it's about getting more done in less time, very deep work. Dark work is designed, in my opinion, how I've built it. It's designed for you to do very gritty stuff for a period of time, almost purely because it's hard because of the inherent return on the investment, which is a shifted identity. Here's the thing. At the end of the destination, I want to have what's called a dominator's identity, which simply means to govern and control in life. But the mentality that lives and breathes is this: I've done too much work in the dark to lose in the light. It's the far stretch of doing a habit, because most people go, I got to do these habits. There's great books, Atomic Habits, Tiny Habits, The Power of Habit, Habits, Millionaire Success Habits, the High Performance, all these habits books. And they talk about the idea is to, at some point in time, not be a person who goes, I'm trying not to smoke, but go, I'm not a smoker. It'll go, great. The idea is at some point to have an identity of that. But here's what nobody does. Nobody thinks about the work they're doing and what the habits will turn them into. So we can teach you how to be better at developing habits, but what if the habit makes you a horrible human in your marriage? It's not a good habit, right? So I go, let's cast out a thought and go, who do you want to be? Okay, great, I got that. Let's go, okay, what habits and actions I got to put in place? Beautiful. The dark work is the backside focused work that you do against the grain of how you feel, that at some point goes from being hard to do to hard not to do because it's who you are. And now you get the thing you want most. I think a lot of folks, they wake up and go, I know what I want. I'm gonna go out there and just tell the world that's who I am now and to kind of convince myself. Good luck. I mean, it doesn't work that way. Think about this. The people that we know and admire now, I'm gonna throw some names that are just kind of like David Goggins, Wim Hof. We know these individuals to be these very solidified, hard-nosed humans. I go, okay, great. Tell me what you knew about David Goggins 20 years ago. What'd you know about Wim Hof? Nothing. Why? They were in the dark. They weren't doing these things for the views, for the anything. They were hardening themselves and creating a different person. Then when that person emerged to the light, it was transparent that they shined brighter. They had done this different thing to where when they show up, it's like, no. I spent too much time getting down and gritty when you weren't doing it for me to lose what I want most right now. And they build, they create, and they do these things that we're enamored by. And everybody wants to document every stage of what they do. And I go, there's a place for that. but it ain't right now if you aren't that great yet. I don't want to watch the kid document his journey to being better at something, because here's also the part of it. Neurologically, when you are having a camera in front of you, you're not focused on your task. And you go, no, but yeah, you are. No, you're not. There's studies were done that put a person in a room and it says, okay, here, work on this. They're focused, effective, efficient by themselves in a room. What they did is simply put somebody in the room with them. They told them, don't communicate, don't talk. And here's what happens. The person in the chair, their mirror neurons are going all over the place and distracting the brain, because here's what happens. As opposed to me focus on my product or my work product, I'm going, am I breathing too loud? What are they doing? What are they working on? Do I smell? Do I stink? Am I tapping my pen? Your brain's not here now. It's focused on some other piece. And so when you have a camera, that's not a person, but your brain knows it's a person later on. So your work is not focused. It's not dialed in. It's not gritty as it could be. And so for me, the dark work is doing work selectively behind the scenes without the idea of any voyeuristic pleasure for somebody else. Just for you. It's just for you. Like you don't got to put a camera up like the thing and say, well, if the workout wasn't filmed, did it happen? Hell yeah, it happened. You did it. And you felt strong. So now when you go out somewhere, you battle differently. And if you akin it to the best athletes that we know in the world, the majority of the highest world-class GOAT athletes we know, they're out there getting it and we don't know about it. We didn't know about Kobe Bryant's crazy workout schedule, a regimen of go to the gym at 4 a.m. and then, come back for the second workout with the rest of the team later on. We didn't know about that while he was doing it. We didn't know that after he lost one of he shot a shot that missed out in the NBA finals, they didn't win, that he would go to this basketball gym at a high school nearby and shoot until like early morning, like hours in the morning, because he didn't want to miss that shot. And the next year he gets it. We didn't know about that when he was doing it, but because he did it, he shined. And that's what people are missing out on. The dark work is stuff you do for no other purpose than for you to know you did it. So when you go out into the world later on, you have a skill set, but you have this monster inside you who will not stop until that skill set is put on display.
This is awesome conversation. And it's interesting. One of the small little things I'm doing is 40-day sprints. And the concept is, can I change a habit in that 40 days? And so, and you can. And what's really interesting is when you start doing, but it's not just, this is as examples of like, I'm not ready right now. And it's funny, I'm talking about in the podcast, but I've thought about, hey, I should maybe like take a picture. And I started for a moment, like just for like a stupid moment. I was like, oh, I'll start filming this. Like, I'm not good at this yet, if that makes sense, because kind of it's a relatively new thing. It's like, okay, for this next 40 days, I'm going to do this, this, and this. I tell you what, that journey along the way of dumb little thing, Anthony, this is like the dumbest thing in the world I'm about to say here is I'm not drinking any coffee this 40 days.
I don't drink coffee. I never had a cup of coffee in my life.
Okay. Well, good for you. See, that's awesome. But for me, caramel macchiato, man. Right. Oh, caramel latte. Oh,
yeah. I'm a green tea guy.
It is the best. And I associate it, interestingly enough, with my creative work. I'd go into a coffee house and I'd go write a blog while I was having this caramel latte. So all of a sudden I'm not drinking that caramel latte. And people are going, this is stupid, Carl. It's like, no. When you have got this ingrained habit and you associate it with, for me, creative work, which I was enjoying, and you now take away that coffee, that changed my sense of being right, if that makes sense. And I had to really break away from it, and you have to fight it. And there's times I'm doing this, like, oh, I want to go back. I want to get that. But I've held back. I've held back from going to there, but it's not easy, going in. And that's just one small example, right, of a tiny little habit.
It is.
But the bigger things is like getting good into what you said. I mean, how many times you said you did that podcast, the 7-minute ones?
Today was 936. 936, 7 minutes every day, every weekday.
And how many people are now following you now because of that work you've done?
300,000+ downloads of the episodes. And I only share it when I do a speech. So it's not even the entire world that gets access to this podcast. But it's one of these things where, here's what it is. You alluded to it, but it's a beautiful thing. It's humans' drive to be in alignment. There is such a human drive to be in alignment with words that we speak out loud, with thoughts that we have. We got to be in alignment, because then what happens if not, we think that we're out of line and we don't like ourselves, even if it's a negative thing. Like, I'm a thug, I'm a hood. You got to do things that then solidify that to be you, and it's not good. And so what happens is What you're saying is I had this part of me that says coffee is a thing that gives me creativity. I'm in alignment there. I'm trying to break alignment. We don't want to do that. There's studies that show that given 5 pieces of definitive proof of you being wrong, you will still battle for your position because of the connection to alignment. So you're right. When you say these things, you are almost like drawn to have to make these things correct. So doing a habit, the habit isn't always the issue to put it in. It's breaking away from this alignment you've had previously to realign into something new. And that's a very hard thing to do. It's funny, my son just peeked in here a moment ago, but I tell him this. I go, hey, football's about to start. And here's what I want you to think. These people don't know you. You're fresh. You're new to this. And I'm going to tell you the truth. No matter how you go into football practice, it's going to be hard on day 2 to change this. And here's what it is. You can go in on day 1 and you could be a schmuck, kind of out there doing your thing. And and that's what they see you to be, right? And if day 2, all of a sudden you pick it up, it's going to be weird. Like, what's up with you now, Trucks? All of a sudden you want to be, right? It's weird. People don't like that. The tribe will notice something. They're afraid of the judgment of the tribe. So even going from a sucky position to a better position is uncomfortable. But think about this. If you go out there and you're a dog on day 1, I mean, leaps and bounds ahead of what you've ever done before in practice. They don't know you. On day 2, if you come out there and you do less, they're going to go, hey, what's up? Why aren't you showing up today? We're all so fearful of that. So no matter what happens on day 1, if you do it right, it'll set you up for day 2, and then you'll fight to stay in alignment with what you've already been seen to be, because you don't want to be chastised for being different from what they see you to be. So set the tone early. Now, if it's already been set, here's the cool thing. We're humans, which means we have the ability for every day to be different, and likely you're going to have to retrain people on who you are. Because I work with individuals that are executives, that are moms, dads, everything, and they go, I've never done that. Cool, that's perfect. Accept that you've never done it before. Realize this, it's going to feel incredibly uncomfortable and out of character to do what we're about to do. But I'm going to tell you this, day 1 feels funny. Week 1 feels funny. Month 1 feels funny. But month 3, they accept it for who you are now. Our job is to create that progression and stay consistent. So on month 3, they know who you are now. You've realigned in a whole new direction. And it's hard to get there, but here's a cool benefit. You don't just get to have like, okay, I feel different now. There's a complete different sense of power inside of you, a different sense of just like, I can do this. I got just a whole different mentality, but you also have a higher achievement. The life you are now going to be living at that level, you might have more money, more respect, more notoriety. You might have more success in some manner that's deemed to be your success. It's not just that you did something for no reason. You have literally accomplished something and become a person that can accomplish that thing. And that's a sweet thing. That is something that is priceless when you finally earned it for yourself.
And as I was telling you, I knew I was going to have this keep going because I had a sense that you were going to bring out some good nuggets out of here, Anthony. This has been awesome. I want to talk about one more thing, and then we're going to ask some of my traditional questions. It's interesting. I have a daughter right now who's getting ready to do collegiate sport, and there's this test they're doing called the BEEP test, and there's a level that she has not done, if that makes sense. And they have this extraordinary high level, this program that they have of going out towards.
I said, great. I love it. Standards are beautiful. I love them.
Yeah, no, exactly. So they have this really high standard. And so she is battling, right, to hit it. But there was this comment that somebody told her, as another athlete who's on the team already. And she's, once just coming in, she said, you have to do something that you never dreamed you thought you can do. You have to push yourself to a different level. You being what you've done, and I know you've experienced this more than once, what I'm explaining. How, if you were to coach somebody to tell something, and once again, I know this can apply outside of sports, but we'll just use it for sports for right now. When somebody's trying to push themselves, whether they're running something or jumping through something or lifting something, or perhaps it's even just working on writing a book, what does it take to push yourself to that deep level, that level that you didn't thought you had in yourself?
It is an understanding and appreciation for the gift you have in that moment of complete difficulty. It sounds odd, but think of it this way. If I was doing, I don't know, as many burpees as I could do, right? Just doing as many burpees as I could do physically. At a certain point, in my brain and my body, I go, I can't do a single rep. I'm done. There's no way I can do more. And that's a beautiful, gifted moment, because in that moment, every rep I do, I'm getting better, guaranteed. I know it. Every rep I do, I know it. And when you can click into that space, you will start like you kind of float and you start pulling out of yourself something you never knew was there, but is only going to arrive when you've gifted yourself that moment, when you've pushed everything you got out of you, and now you take the logic away from it. Like, I don't even think that your daughter should go into this thinking, okay, I got to get a number. Don't do that. The goal is to go, I'm going to do as much as I can, and I'm waiting for the gift to arrive. I'm waiting for it to arrive. I don't know when it's going to be there. I don't know what beep it's going to be. I don't know what number it's going to be. But when that thing comes and I'm going to throw up if I go into the rep. Cool. Welcome. You got the gift. Open this damn thing. Let's go. And just little, don't think about how, just turn off the brain. You got to almost, like, I disassociate with myself in certain points. I go somewhere else, but keep the body moving, if that makes sense. It's why athletes have a screw loose. Like, we have to go to a different logical place than other human beings go, because we have to separate the mind and the body, because if not, the mind and the weaker identity of ours will take over. And I don't want either the mind, the weaker part, to take over, or I don't want the body leading. So I have to go, okay, the moment that I'm too tired and I want to stop, that is my current and becoming old identity wanting to latch on and hang on. But the identity of what I want knows that I have to let that person die and build this next level of me. And so I only get that at that gifted moment. My brain knows it, my soul knows it, my cells know it. And it's only in that space that I can arrive at the beautiful gift and open it. There's actually some interesting studies done, because there's stress we can have that can go to the level of what we would now deem trauma. Whole different conversation of what I think about trauma. But then there's a level of what's called eustress. It's a beneficial stress. Eustress is great for the muscles to make them grow, but it's also great for the brain. They found that when the body is at a certain level of eustress, difficulty, things going on, that the brain releases a protein that encodes more of our dormant DNA. Interestingly enough, when you push yourself to a certain level, you become more of who I believe God created you to be. But he gave you free will to lean into those things. You have to push yourself to a whole new level to access this different part of you. That's why you see people that look like nerds and they're not doing stuff that 10 years later, look at Jeff Bezos. When he was starting out, the dude was just a guy, right? Just a dude in the office, super nerd. I wouldn't have given him a second look. And now he got this chest up sweat. Why? Because he did some things and built some stuff that is beyond comprehension for many. So yes, he has rewired himself to go, I'm dope, like swagged out, right? It's not fake. It was earned, right? You may like him or not like him. I don't care. Respect that, period. And so, long answer to your question is, there's a gift right there at the moment of difficulty. And we have to, in those moments, lean in and accept the gift, open that bad boy up and realize that the gift is more work.
That was an awesome answer, and I can't wait to. I'm gonna be way before this goes out to the public. I'm gonna share it with her, and that was really wise advice. And I once again, to everyone else who's listening, it was a perfect answer. I love that. It's a gift rather than, and I love it. Don't even think about the number. Just keep on.
Just go.
Just go. Right. Just go. Love it. Okay, we are at that point where we do actually have to wrap up because we are at that lack of time. Anthony, how do you now measure success when you are working with your clients or perhaps speaking? How do you measure success today?
Well, we set our own scale first, meaning my clients will set what success will look like to them, separate from the world, because the world's scale sucks if you borrow it. There's never a finish line. There's never enough. It's always something more you could get. So I go, just set your own scale for what's great, and then we'll work towards that. So it varies for each person. I do believe you should set a scale that's 1 inch out of your comfort zone. It should make your butt pucker a little bit when you think about what the goal is, right? But then for me, success is control, man. The freedom is interesting because people go, freedom. I go, yeah, but we all have a modicum of freedom, but we're free to be in relationships that we don't feel free to leave. Jobs we don't feel free to leave, right? But we have the freedom to, but the problem is we don't have control, whether a belief we can exercise control or an actual control. And for me, like, I love the fact that I can get up when I want to get up. Like, I got up today when my body wanted to get up. I can hang out with my kids as long as I'm gonna go take my son to Target right now to get some shorts for football. I don't got to work. I could work later if I want to. I don't have to ask anybody for 2 weeks off, right? There's a control to my life. I don't have $1 billion. I don't need it. If my level of success was garnered from the world, I wouldn't be successful till I had a private jet. I don't need that. My life is based on my control at the level I want it to be. And so I recommend everybody sets your own scale, and that scale should, in some level, create like a life for you that has a sense of control that you choose.
Okay. Got to make this quick. So 1 minute. What are some habits? You mentioned a couple of them actually when you were just saying that, but what are some habits you consistently do to help make sure you have great performance?
Oh man, I carve off the idea fat. There's too many ideas. I sit down every 2 months and I go, what ideas have I written down that need to be pushed out 6 months or killed completely? From those projects, I always bring in 2 or 3 that I get by like working focus. I segment those up to the amount of hours each one will actually take, to the minutes. I call it the trunk, the branch, the leaves. What's the trunk, the core thing? What's the branch, like the supporting pieces with the leaves that make that come to pass? How much time does each leaf take, each branch take, and then it makes the trunk come to life? I then create my life in a calendar, and I infuse the hours of those leaves, those projects into my day, so I could look at the next 4 to 6 weeks and go, there's my life. So when I'm on, I'm on. When I'm off, I'm off.
Love it. Love it. That is a really good habit you just mentioned there. Of course, we're going to recommend people to order your book, Identity Shift, Anthony. But what is a book that has inspired you that you'd recommend to others?
Oh man, there's a bunch of great books. I love the book Untethered Soul. If we talk about identity stuff, Michael Singer talks a lot about how like we are someone inside of ourselves, like when we have conversations with ourselves, but it's a matter of who do you want to express out to the world. And when you start to understand that you can let that person expression-wise just go out and do what they do, that the people that I think they want to see full expression of a human, that person gets more in life than a person that doesn't. But it's a good kind of understanding and thinking through like, man, there is a part of me that is me and a part of me I express.
Love it. Anthony, how can people connect and learn more about what you're doing?
Oh man, go to darkwork.com or find me on @AnthonyTrucks on Instagram.
Perfect. Okay. Well, once again, Anthony, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the Measure Success podcast today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
To everyone who's listening, the reason why we have extraordinary guests like Anthony is because you keep on listening, you keep on sharing with us. We have a crazy 6-month backlog of guests, and it's amazing to get people like Anthony who has done so much, is making such a difference, and it's just been a joy to actually have people and to learn from him. And I loved it. Once again, I'm going to cherish this, share this with my daughter. As I said, she's getting ready to pop into a collegiate ball, and so I will share that aspect behind her. Finally, as we always like to say, we like to wish you the very best at measuring your success. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Measure Success podcast. We'll see you again next time to learn from the best. Remember to subscribe now to get future episodes.